I'm Kayla.
I'm Anna. This is Laughs and Legacies.
Hey guys, welcome back to Laughs and Legacies. This week we got A Time I Was Home Alone. And we consider this as you were actually by yourself or just all your siblings without your parents. Because that's where the fun happens, let's be real. For example, one of our best stories... my best story anyways, because I don't think I'll ever forget this no matter what happens in my whole life. We all had done something, the same thing of cooking and burning ramen, like putting ramen in the microwave without water at one point or another. But this one specific time, Anna did it. It was burning. So we have the alarm going off. I am totally sick. I don't know why the rest of my siblings were at home, because they weren't sick, but I'm sick. So I was upstairs in a bath trying to just chill out, right? And I know that my parents aren't home, so I'm in the bath. I hear the alarm go off. I'm like, oh crap. I'm trying to get out of the bath as fast as I can, get a towel on. And then our alarm to the house, because we used to have security system, that one starts going off. I'm like, who's trying to open the door? I'm like, are you kidding me right now? And so I am running, and I can hear them downstairs screaming like, Kayla! And I am sprinting in my towel, and at the top of our stairs, we have tile. Imagine this, a wet woman running on the tile. I slip and fall down the stairs in my towel, and I hit the edge. So our stairs turn. It goes down a little bit, then it has a little landing, and then it goes down the rest of the way. So I fall down the shorter path at least. Oh my gosh, could you imagine the long way? Anyways, the shorter piece hit the wall, and I'm just sitting there so sick, wet, in a towel, in pain.
And from my perspective, all I can see is smoke from the microwave. I hear beep, 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 and then beep, 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 and then do, 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 do.
And then, the headache is coming of me whacking my head and the alarms going off. I was like, I am just so bad. So I finally get down the rest of the stairs. I'm like, what are you idiots doing? So angry. And with all the chaos, I forgot the password to turn the security system off. So I kept going, and it beeps even louder because I mess it up. Then I put it in again, beeps even louder. I'm like, oh my gosh! I'm screaming, and I finally get it right. And I look at them, and I'm like, what the heck, man?
We didn't know what to do, and so eventually one of our neighbors came over with a fire extinguisher and helped get it out of our microwave and everything, and took it out, and it's just
this burnt ramen.
This black. Half of it was black, and I was just like, oh.
No water.
That was me.
Oh my gosh. It was just so funny. I mean, now funny, but at the time I was just so mad, so sick. My head was pounding. I just remember it so vividly, just slipping and bam, right into the wall. Oh my gosh. It was awful.
Our sister-in-law, Keely, she submitted a story. She says, one time my brother and I were home alone and invited a bunch of our mutual friends over for a little party. While jumping on the trampoline, my brother broke his foot. He didn't want to tell our parents for a long time because we weren't supposed to have any friends over, but I eventually told them. Try to keep that to yourself.
The thing is, I just don't understand how anybody has enough guts to invite a bunch of people over to the house when you know you're not supposed to, one, and two, we're dumb enough. I mean, I know we're not the only people, but other people too. You're at home, and your parents are like, hey, you need to do this, and this. And they give you a chore list before I get home, right? And of course, you're going to put it off because you're a little kid, and you're like, whatever, Mom, and you're going to be gone forever. And then once you hear the garage open, you're like, oh, shh! shoot, and you run and you go get all those things done. So I don't know how someone could invite someone over for a party and not think about your parents coming home.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I would just be too terrified. Like, oh, they're going to come in right in the middle of this. They're going to be so mad at me. When I was scared enough for not doing a chore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Unless they're going for a weekend, if that's where you're going with that.
Yeah.
That's true. That's different.
But that's so true. Your parents are like, okay, well, we're coming home a little bit early. And you're like, I thought we had at least 20 minutes left to clean the entire house like you asked. Crap.
The entire house.
Yeah. Get the chicken out. Run.
The chicken is the word.
Yeah, you're like trying to, like, what's the best way to defrost it? Microwave? No, that just cooks it. Under hot water? It's not fast enough. What do we do?
I love it. All those little things of when you were at home just make me laugh.
When I'm completely home alone, as an adult now, I love it so much because I enjoy myself. I, first of all, clean the entire house, and I know it's going to stay clean because, like, I mean, we're not messy, but it's just, like, there's knickknacks and things like that, and so when I just do it, it's just lovely, and then I'm like, I'm going to treat myself tonight. I always get food, and I turn on a show, and I just, like, relax, and it's very nice. It's the best being home alone as, like, an adult.
As an adult.
But as a kid, I'm like, someone knocking at the door.
Right. As a kid, you're totally scared that something's gonna happen.
And you're going to sleep at night and you hear like a
Creaks.
slight noise and you're like, what was that?
Okay, I'm still like that now because I'm so used to sleeping with my husband, right? He's always there next to me, and he went out of town last weekend, and it was just weird to me. I was like, I'm by myself. Literally, all of a sudden, somebody can come in my house when I'm never afraid before. Now I'm afraid that someone's gonna break in, and as an adult, it still happens. It's fine.
Well, Allie has a good Home Alone story.
Yeah, he does have a great Home Alone story. When he was about like 6 or 7 years old, so I've mentioned this last time, he lived in Venezuela growing up, and they lived in a pretty small house, and it was pretty normal to see in smaller homes in certain areas in South America that they're made of like a thin metal, basically just like, yeah, a sheet of metal for roofs or like walls. That's just like totally normal. And it's just like fastened by wires, you know, it's not really that stable. So this was their house, and so it was very easy to break in. At the time, he has 9 siblings, but at the time there were only 4 of them that were home alone, and the parents left them to go get groceries. They didn't do that very often because obviously they're pretty young, but they just needed to go that night for whatever reason. So they left them all at home, and Ali and his siblings were playing with, or he was playing with his sister, and she goes, "What's that?" And Ali looks at the floor by a wood pillar and sees a snake wrapped around the pillar, looking straight at them like it was going to strike. Ali was sensing danger even though his siblings were not worried, and they're just like, oh yeah, whatever, which is so weird to me since they're all so little. Wouldn't that scare you even more? I don't know. Maybe that's just me, because that's not normal to see snakes in our house. So Ali grabs a broomstick and tells them to like get on top of the bed, and now his sister, who's really not that much younger than him, is sensing the danger that he's feeling and starts freaking out. So Ali is facing the snake, and it's starting to mirror his movements as well. So it's obviously like locked on to Ali at this point. Ali jumped into the kitchen and grabbed a knife to try to protect his sister, well, siblings, all of them. But his sister screamed, "Snake! There's a snake! There's a snake!" Just as loud as she could. And their neighbors rip apart this tin wall, just right open, and yell at them to like get out, take the baby out first. And the neighbors helped them out one by one, and Ali was last. Before Ali got out, he sees the snake go across the floor and under the bed. They spent the rest of the time waiting for his parents at their Colombian neighbor's house who had helped them. their parents get home and are freaking out because their children and their baby are gone, and there's a gaping hole in their house.
You just get home, it's just hole, no children.
Right? So, of course, his mom starts screaming. And eventually they were reunited, and the Colombians think it was so funny. They heard her screaming and purposely waited a couple minutes trying to teach her a lesson. Like, don't leave your kids at home alone. They thought it was hilarious. 8 or 9 guys go into the house later, and they found the snake and they killed it. But don't leave your kids alone in a house that is that easy to break in, and for snakes to get in.
I can just imagine that they're all in the bed. It's just like a bunch of siblings and young just kids like, going. Yeah, and so like Ali had his broom and his knife. I'll protect you guys.
I know, especially with
Big
like
brother
a
energy.
baby. You know, like
Yeah,
that's
Well,
so scary.
it's so hard to like measure danger as a kid.
Yeah.
So, for example, the fiery microwave with ramen, like, I just feel like that's the end of the world because we have 2 alarms going off.
The alarms made it definitely scarier.
Yeah, and then
otherwise
smoke
we
coming
would
out.
have been like,
Well, it's like
what the
hard
heck?
to measure,
Yeah.
like, enough of the danger, you know? So spooky, so I'll get out. I love Ali, that's so awesome. Last one.
He has some of the best stories, guys, and we've been married for almost 3 years, and every once in a while he's like, oh yeah, when I was a kid, and tells me a story. I'm like, what the heck, man? Like, why do I not know this? Like, just crazy
He
stories.
just pulls the most outrageous story. Like,
Outrageous.
Just out of his pocket.
I mean, he was just in a totally different world than us anyways, you know.
I love when people just nonchalantly share, like, the most outrageous story.
It's the
Ready?
best.
Are you
You're
ready
like,
for a
"Wait,
side
what?"
story real quick? This has nothing to do with our prompt. Real quick.
Okay.
I was at a dinner with someone from my mission, and it was about in her 60s, 70s, and we're all just chatting. There's 4 of us, and I start talking about, like, murder podcasts, like, you know, true crime, and I'm like, do you guys ever listen to these? I like to listen to these sometimes. And they're like, oh, blah, 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 blah.
Oh,
We're
yeah.
chatting, and one of my friend here, she says, oh, like murderers and stuff? I was like, yeah. She's like, oh, I knew a murderer. I met Ted Bundy. I was like,
Like, you just pulled that out like that was not a problem.
yeah, she was really acting real nonchalant. I was like, so, what do you mean? And she's like, oh, yeah, like, he moved into my, like, church, like, home ward, and I knew there was something wrong with him the day I met him because he showed up with a suit and a turtleneck. Weird. And I'm like,
The fact
okay.
that that's what threw her off. Love it.
Yeah, please continue telling us about this murderer's, like,
Fashion choices.
yeah. And I was just like, was trying to pull this out of her, okay? I was like, what happened? She's like, yeah, he was weird. Like, every once in a while he, like, offered me a ride home. Like, it was just weird because I was, like, 15. Like, I didn't want to ride home from him. It was just weird. And I was like,
We're so grateful you
and that
didn't
was
get a
it.
ride.
That was it. That was, like, the end. She just went back to eating her barbecue and just, like, changed the subject. And I was like, of course. After we talk about the murderers that we've met, we just move on. Like, that's wild. Oh, anyways, that was a sidetrack. That should be another one. Nonchalant stories.
That just blow your mind.
Yeah,
You're
what the heck? Okay, the last one is from my boy Nate. He says, I was home alone with Kyle and Sienna. Those are...
His siblings.
Yes. When we were kids, we usually kept Sienna and Kyle separate because they never got along as kids. Sienna would stay in her room and play with her American Girl dolls, while Kyle and I would play games or jump on the trampoline. This time around, I got distracted, and somehow Sienna and Kyle ended up messing with each other. This quickly turned into a fight and into a bunch of arguing. And so Kyle ran to me for backup. Sienna and I started arguing, and I was getting more and more mad at her, and eventually I snapped. For some reason, my first reaction was to throw a kick, and so I went to kick her in the leg, and she dropped her hand to block it, and I kicked her pinky. She ran to her room crying and didn't come out until my mom got home. She comes out and complains to mom, and more arguing ensued. They ended up going to the hospital, and it turns out I broke her pinky. However, it stopped the threat to Kyle, so this just goes to show how violence is always the answer.
That is false. I'm sorry. The violence that broke out in our house when our parents were not home is unreal. We don't need to go into detail, but I'm just telling you the violence was there.
Bruises, bro. Bruises. And 5 stars. Lots of 5 stars.
I remember that we, as young teenagers, me and my friends thought it was so funny to give each other 5 stars that, like, made welts. Why did we think that was funny? That is so rude. I remember doing it to Ethan Gomez, like, so hard on his leg right here. I just, boom! Like, he actually welted. Like, I felt around, like, the edges of my fingers. I was like, wow, that... At the time, I thought it was so funny. That is so mean. I was not a nice friend sometimes.
Dang, that's crazy.
It's fine. We're gonna move on.
We always gave each other, like, 5 stars, too. But, like... I remember when I gave Trevor thrives off of, like, pestering us. Like,
he's the youngest
child. It made him laugh so hard.
Child.
He thought it was so funny the angrier he got us, and you know what? He's so cute, though. Anyways, one time I got so mad.
He was very good at it.
And I was like, I'm gonna slap you. And, like, he just thought it was funny, egging me on even more just to get me to do it. And I gave him a 5-star right on the back. And he runs to Mom and actually cries her. I was like, oh, usually, like, this doesn't happen. And I was like, I think I might have hurt him. And so I, like, go, and I'm like, what's wrong? And Mom's like, you did this to him? And I look, and it is a fat welt with each individual finger. And I was like, I actually feel bad about this. I'm sorry. I felt so bad.
I love it. It's fine.
Actually, another one with Trevor. We probably were home alone on this one, so I'm totally going to count it. But... one time,
probably.
I don't know.
Maybe not.
Usually he was pestering me, but this one time, I was pestering him. And so he got mad and started chasing me, and we're laughing. Like, he's laughing but kind of mad. I'm laughing. I think it's funny, so I'm just booking it. And then at one point, I'm like, why am I running from him? So
I'm bigger. I'm the threat.
I'm just like, what the... I turn around and I start booking it after him, and he's like, oh crap, and he turns around, he starts running away, and so we're laughing still, and he goes up to his room, and while he's running up to his room, and he walks in, or runs in, grabs his door and kind of closes it, like, right behind him, but, like, I'm not watching the door or anything, I'm, like, looking at him, and I'm like, this is my moment, and I lift up my leg to go kick him in the butt, but as, like, my leg is mid-air, the door, doosh, clashes into my foot and just closes right on my leg, and I have a fat divot in my shin, you guys.
To this day.
People will, like, go, what is that? Point at it, poke it, and say...
How do you not poke a weird thing?
Hey, look, sometimes you just leave divots and you don't poke them, okay? And they're like, what is that? I was like, Trevor. And they're like, what? I'm like, you know, having fun. The divot, bro.
I love it. Yeah, the fighting, the siblings. We just need a whole siblings...
Sibling fights?
Sibling fight episode, because I feel like we'll be crying from laughing so hard. I have a feeling, and hopefully everyone does too. When we laugh as hard, I hope everyone else does too, because we get a kick out of these.
Dude, I know there's way better Home Alone stories. Like, someone's house had to have burned down. Okay, someone has a better story than these ones here. Okay, if you guys have a story, please submit it. These are our stories for this time.
Next week is a time with neighbor kids, so you know we could get a little something in there too.
Perfect. Thank you guys so much, and we'll catch you next time.